Welcome, everyone, to the L7C podcast. Today, we have a very special episode for you guys. We are going to be talking about GalaxyCon, a big event that happens in Columbus, Ohio. We're going to talk cons in general. So, for this episode, we got the captain with us, Mr. Byron Mitchell. How are you doing today, sir?
Happy Sunday. I'm doing good today.
And then we have the wrestling expert on his first podcast of 2024, Mr. Jacob Mason. How are you doing today?
Happy New Year. Doing pretty good. Happy to be here.
And then making her way back to the L7C podcast for the first time in years, the other side of the wrestling expert, Mrs. Hannah Mason. How are you doing today?
Hey, good morning. I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Before we hop into all of this stuff, since he wasn't able to be on, Jacob, I don't know if you caught all the end of year stuff, but how did you feel again? Another top 5 finishes within categories on the L7C podcast.
Yeah, I didn't catch much of it. To be honest, buddy.
All he knows is he lost to Mitch.
Yeah, I lost to Mitch. Obviously, the Russians hacked our podcast, so is what it is. But no, congrats to Mitch. I am happy for him.
You'll get him next year, or now this year. But we are here to talk about GalaxyCon. So Byron, first off, what is GalaxyCon?
So GalaxyCon is basically a Comic-Con, but it's more than that. It's a 3-day festival of fandom with celebrities, artists, writers, voice actors, cosplayers, entertainers, creators, wrestlers, fangirls, panelists, and people like us. So you can join fans from across the galaxy and celebrate comic books, pop culture, sci-fi, fantasy, anime, gaming, cosplay, and so much more.
It's a lot.
Yes,
it is. It is a lot. Jacob and Hannah, what were your guys' expectations for GalaxyCon? Because this was your guys' first one. Did you think it was going to be bigger, smaller? What was like your expectations going in?
Hannah,
well, okay. So we had only ever been to one con prior to this, and it was Sci-Fi ValleyCon in June last year in Altoona, PA. And that was such a blast. And I really didn't know what to expect in terms of the size of the event. I knew it would be bigger, but I was blown away by Greater Columbus Convention Center.
Yeah. How
massive that space was, and how many people were actually going to be there. Not even just the fandom, all the people who showed up to attend, but the celebrities, the artists, the vendors. It was a lot to take in. It was absolutely amazing. I did not expect it to be as big as it was.
Jacob?
Yeah, it is definitely a lot bigger than I expected it to be. I mean, years and years and years ago, when I used to work at the Hyatt, which is connected to the convention center, I went to Easy Riders convention, like a motorcycle show, essentially. And I was just kind of blown away. I was like, dude, this is not this big when I was here 10 years ago. The amount of people and the amount of stuff they put in that auditorium is insane. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. And if you're not prepared for it, it can be very overwhelming.
So then switching it to Byron. Byron, you went to the very first ever GalaxyCon in 2022. How was this one different from last year in terms of size, people attending, all that?
So the first year, last year in 2023, it was way bigger and a lot more people than 2022, because I think after 2022, like word of mouth got out, like how amazing GalaxyCon Columbus was, like all the stuff you got to do there. So there was a whole bunch of people at the second year's event than it was the first year event. So that was probably the biggest difference that I noticed between the 2 years.
Yeah. And I know you and I, Hannah and Jacob were down there Friday, and you and I got there Saturday. We got there around like 9:30 in the morning. And when they told us how far back the registration line was. It's like we just got right back to where we walked in entrance wise.
Yeah, the line was huge. Because our first event was at 10 to see Grant Gustin. Like, I didn't get into Grant Gustin until like 10:30, so I missed the first 30 minutes of him speaking because we thought, oh, we get there at 9:30, we'll make it in there by 10. Nope, gotta get there earlier this year.
So, Hannah and Jacob, you guys said you went to a con before, and obviously this GalaxyCon was like a bigger con. How did you guys prepare for like this first major con?
Well, the first con we went to, we kind of just showed up. We wanted to just see what it was all about. I was on cloud 9 in Altoona, and so I don't know. The only way that I prepared, I decided I did want to dress as somebody this time, which is really out of character for me because I don't like attention. I don't like people looking at me, but I also felt like I really wanted to participate in this because at the first con I went to, I saw people cosplaying and like having a great time, and it was so well received. And I thought like I could do that. So the way I prepared for this one was I decided to go as Future Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. So I ordered a wig off of Amazon. I ordered, what did I get? Like this $8 belt and like blue jacket that and a Capsule Corp like patch. And I had a friend, a coworker, who sewed it onto the jacket for me. She had this yellow fabric she put around this belt that I got. So that physically is how I prepared, but like mentally, I was so nervous going down on Saturday in my cosplay. I don't think it was, I mean, like it had to have been halfway through the day before I finally kind of forgot that I was wearing this costume. So mentally, I had to prepare to just be like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm probably going to have people look at me, and I don't really like that. But it was well received too. I mean, I actually had people compliment the cosplay, recognize it. I had a few people ask to take a picture of it. That was really cool. Jacob prepared by wearing a Batman Vegeta button up, a pink button up, so he could support me, and I was so happy about that.
And then this one is just for everyone too, so everyone could chip in. And this is for like major cons in general. But the other side is financially. Like, did everyone in their head have an amount of money that they weren't going to go over if they spent? Because for anyone who hasn't gone to a major con, you're going to see a lot of cool stuff and you're going to spend a lot of money. Like, if you're not prepared, you're going to spend a lot of money. Byron, I know you had hindsight because you went to the very first one, but when did you, and then obviously Hannah and Jacob had to get a hotel, so they had to spend money on that. But Byron, when did you like decide like, all right, I need to stash some money away? Like, how much am I going to spend this weekend?
I don't think I had like a specific number. I was like, I can budget maybe a couple hundred, but I don't want to go over that. And I think I may have been over that because there was just so much stuff to buy. Like every booth we went to, there's like, ooh, this is something I want to buy. So, you know, I'll just go buy it. Here's the Christmas present to myself. So when I go back this year, I definitely want to set a budget and not go over from that. But just so much stuff to buy.
Jacob, what about you, man? Was there a certain total where you were just like, we need to have X amount of money ready for this weekend?
Yeah, but I'm married. Therefore, yeah, that shit goes right out the window. But I will say this much. Like you said, me and Hannah, we did get a hotel. And honestly, that was the best move because it's literally a walk down the hall. Not a big deal. And everything's that part of the peace of mind was absolutely priceless. But there is so much shit these cons. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. Like, even if you take away just like all the meet and greet stuff, if you just have the just the vendors, it's just a really sweet geek flea market at that point. But it's a lot of fun, and the people there are super cool. And now, like, I know just at like this con, for example, there's like 4 vendors that like now I follow on Instagram and Facebook, and like they follow me back and stuff. It was pretty neat, but yeah, you can spend a lot of money there.
Hannah?
Oh yeah. So we knew when we went to Altoona that we had to expect a lot of small businesses, artists, vendors at this GalaxyCon, probably on a much larger scale. So I know personally, I took out as much cash as I felt comfortable spending and not coming home with, if that were the case. That plan pretty much came to fruition. I think I came back with $40, but I didn't spend all of it, so that was good. But between the meet and greets, like we knew for sure I wanted to meet Christopher Sabat. That was the top tier person I needed to meet when I was there, and we knocked that out on Friday night. But between the meet and greets and all of the small businesses, kind of like Jake said, it's like a kind of like a geeky flea market. But in the 3 days, because we did a 3-day pass, I'm telling you, on Sunday, after walking that convention center for 2 straight days, there were still vendors and artists that I hadn't seen when I was there on Sunday. They had been there all weekend, but because this place is so massive and, just the way it's laid out, you think that maybe you've hit everything at least once, and it's just not the case. So you would find other things or other people that were creating or selling just the coolest stuff. And I just love supporting artists and small businesses. And I love to have little treasures of things in my house that make me happy. So I did bring back a lot of stuff. And in terms of people you follow on Instagram, right? I don't think Dominic Glover was in Altoona. I don't know why or how I found him, but I've been following him for a better part of a year. And when we met up with you and Byron, Martin, I saw your Dominic Glover artist bag. You were holding a piece of his artwork. And I'm thinking, he's here? I know of him. So we sought him out. And then I ended up coming home with a piece of his artwork. So well worth the money. I mean, we knew going into this like 6 months in advance that we'd probably be dropping some money. And it was so worth it. I would do it again. No questions asked.
So for people who are going to be listening to this and they're like, oh, I want to go to GalaxyCon. Now we're hearing about this. So what would be a number you would tell someone to have for just walking around vendor stuff? Like not tickets, not meet and greets, just first like walking around. How much cash should someone have on them for just the walking around part?
I feel like the amount of cash you should carry is directly dependent on how much willpower you have. So for me, like if you have the y-axis as like your willpower and the x-axis as like the amount of money you should bring, I'm like, it's not a good ratio for me. I needed a couple $100. A couple $100 felt good for me. So I didn't feel like I had to. But we don't have a lot of responsibilities. We have a porch goose who's very low maintenance. That is the extent of our pets or children here in the Mason household. So that works to our advantage for me to be a little reckless in deciding when I'm going to spend money. But I would say a couple $100 because, if you have the ability to support small artists, small vendors, and, it's just such unique stuff, then I say go for it. Live your best life.
Byron, how much do you think just cash-wise, like just the vendor part, like if you're going to buy artwork like Hannah said, or if you're going to buy shirts, because if you haven't been there, there's obviously people who do t-shirts and all that. Like how much money should you allocate for just that?
Definitely a couple $100. Because you could easily spend that on the first day.
Yeah, one good art piece is $80.
Yeah. I bought a couple art
pieces. I do too. I'm looking at them right now.
Definitely went over the couple hundred threshold, but I'll say a couple hundred is a good starting point. But it's also based on your budget, your willpower, and all that fun stuff, and what you're comfortable spending. Because I don't have many responsibilities either. I'm a single person without any kids or pets, so my budget is probably different than someone with, a wife and kids and pets and all that fun stuff. So a couple $100 is a good starting point, but be prepared to go over that by seeing all these amazing artists and t-shirts and just different cool stuff you see there.
Jacob, you agree? A couple hundred?
Yeah, I'd say $200-$300.
Yeah,
I
that's a
think
good number.
You know, especially if you do like all 3 days, I'd say like just ration out $100 a day just on miscellaneous dumb shit before everything else, like spare tires or tows or Uber rides, like in our case.
Yeah, because your guys' cases was very wild. But just for people out of town, like couple hundred, say 200 to 300. Your guys' hotel room was what, a couple hundred too, like total, something like that. And then meet and greets, all that. You're looking at close to a 1K ish weekend.
Well, and that brings up a good point too. There were a lot of people that we knew we wanted to either meet and greet with, or get an autograph, or just be able to interact with them in some fashion. And we didn't purchase meet and greets with everyone we wanted to see. Instead, like Ron Perlman, for example, we went to his panel, and we were able to stand in line and ask him questions and actually talk to him. I think Jacob and I both got to ask him 2 questions individually, so 4 questions total. And that was just included in the price of your ticket. So depending on how you want to budget your time and your money, that was worth it for us to not stand in line to meet Ron Perlman and pay money to, get a picture and autograph. We actually got to listen to his panel, interact with him individually, and that was included in the ticket price. So that was worth it too, I think. If, you decide who is a must-see, must-pay for, once in a lifetime experience, and then, how else can you interact with the people that you don't necessarily want to spend the money on to meet in a meet and greet.
Jacob, what was some of your favorite experiences at GalaxyCon?
Let's see. Probably, the Ron Perlman meet panel that Hannah just talked about was really neat. And then just I'd say like I got a picture with Kane and I talked to him, which I wanted to talk to him more about Mayor Glenn Jacobs than I did Kane, which was really funny. That was pretty neat. I'd say like the funniest thing for me that happened at GalaxyCon was one of the vendors, which was C2 Grips. I seen their stuff on Saturday and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So Sunday I went back and I bought one of their grip things. And I was telling them, I was talking to some guy. I was like, yeah, I said, not gonna lie, I said, I don't know what kind of witchcraft you guys got here, but ever since I messed with these things yesterday, I said, it's all I thought about. And I'm not gonna lie, they seem gimmicky as fuck, but I can't stop thinking about it. And it turned out like that was the creator and the owner of that entire company. So that was pretty funny. And like even he laughed about it. He goes, yeah, I get it. But that was pretty neat. And then, hanging out with you guys and everything, meeting up with people and all around, it was a really good time.
Hannah, how about yourself? What were some of your favorite experiences at GalaxyCon?
Meeting Christopher Sabat and sitting in on his panel were my absolute favorites. I mean, I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z as a kid, and Vegeta and Piccolo were 2 of my favorite characters, bar none. So to listen to his panel and hear him kind of going into those voices and out of those voices and just discussing his path with how he got involved with Funimation was totally incredible. Made my inner child very happy. But aside from all of that, honestly, walking the venue and interacting with the artist, kind of just seeing what people had to offer that were just so unique. I thought that was just invaluable to me. That's what I'm looking forward to at any other con I go to in the future. Aside from the celebrity draw that you have, right? Just the artists and the vendors, those small businesses are just, I mean, so appealing. They're so different. And that was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole thing.
What about you, Byron?
Number one is taking a picture with the L7C pick'em bout with the GOAT Christian Stratus. That was my favorite experience. I was iffy on, if I wanted to buy that picture, but I ended up buying it. So that also goes to 200 that I overspent. But the second thing was just probably walking around and just seeing the different artwork that everyone has to offer. It's always great to see like the creative things that they come up with, like or like mixing different media. Like there was this one guy who had like um Dragon Ball Z characters on ramen cups.
I bought some stuff for him. Yep.
Yep. A local artist. He said he was going to come back next year. So, well, this year now, but definitely going to see what more he brings. And it's just overall, just a great experience. I have few complaints is line structure could be,
which we'll get to those.
Better.
We'll get to complaints.
Those were a great experience. So those were my top two.
Since we do have wrestling people on here, just want to highlight again, Jacob, like you said, he got to talk to Kane. Jacob and Hannah got to take pictures with the Hardys during that time. Byron got to take a picture with Trish Stratus. Even myself, I got to ask Trish and Lita a question about if they were the main event WrestleMania against the 4 horsewomen, who would they pick for their other two? And then actually thinking, I was like, I wonder if me, Jacob, and Byron actually think that match would go the way that Trish and Lita think it would go. So like that cool stuff. So we were doing wrestling stuff there, just telling the wrestling fans. For Byron, what did you do this GalaxyCon that you didn't get to do last year?
This year I definitely got to buy things. So this year I went to the 2-day pass. Last year I just did the 1-day pass because I wasn't sure what it was about. And then Sunday I had like family stuff to do, so I didn't really get to. So Saturday, me and my brother Nate went and met up with you and Patrick. So this year did 2 days. Definitely bought things. Went to panels both days. So I did more this year than I did last year.
Okay. Jacob, what's one thing you would do differently if you were to go again?
One thing I would definitely. I know me and my wife, we were talking about this earlier, so I'm kind of going to copy her answer. I would definitely show up the night before. Especially with us wanting to do the 3-day pass, I would be there on a Thursday.
Okay. Well, Hannah, since he stole your answer, do you have another answer?
No, that's fine. I agree with that. We discussed it because I don't think there was anything we could have or would have done differently over the course of 3 days. 3 days is a lot. And it was well worth it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. But we saw basically everyone we wanted to see and who we wanted to spend money to meet. But we did do the 3-day pass, and we were going to check into the hotel on Friday. And we had some car trouble, right? I mean, we're only an hour and a half from Columbus, and about half an hour into the drive, we got a flat tire in a truck that we've only had for 2 months. So we didn't know that there were going to be some issues with accessing the tire, and it turned into this 3+ hour delay at a Love's. Unforeseen things like that. And it wasn't the biggest deal in the world. We still got to the hotel. We still were able to do a meet and greet type of thing Friday night that we planned on. But it just ended up being a long day. And I think for more peace of mind, if we would have gotten there the night before, that would have been the only thing to make our experience better.
Byron, how about go ahead, Jacob.
I want to change my answer. And this will, for anyone who listens to this and goes to GalaxyCon, and if you happen to make your way to the one food court at the Hyatt, do not get the Jets pizza right before they close that they're giving it out for free.
Oh no, that's true. I didn't think of that. I changed my answer, actually. That's the answer right there.
Because you'll be waking up at 5 a.m, slamming Pepto-Bismol, praying to the commode gods to make the pain go away.
You were really sick. I don't know if you had just been for a long time, but unless you have
a Jets pizza,
stomach lining made of steel, right? I'm sure Jets pizza is fantastic, but like if it's been sitting all day and they're just handing it out for free at the end of the night, maybe don't take it.
What about you, Byron? What was one thing you do differently?
Definitely show up earlier on Saturday. because I said earlier, that line was atrocious. It was from the entrance we walked into. We had to go to a different entrance because that line was that long. But also budget more money because like the first year I was like, okay, cool, there's a lot of stuff here, so next year I'll buy stuff. So then year number 2, I was like, oh, this is a lot more than I remember it being. So definitely I would budget to spend more money at the next GalaxyCon.
I would think also for the people who are local, like ourselves, Byron, like you got the 2-day thing. I got like the 2-day deluxe thing, which I highly recommend because you get a bag. And if you're going to buy a lot of stuff, at least you have a free bag. That's another thing, bring a bag. But if you're doing a 2-day thing, I would suggest picking up your thing the day before. Like come in like Friday after work or whatever, register so you already get your pass and go on, because that Saturday line, I don't post on Snapchat often, but that line was absolutely ridiculous. So if you can register early, like a day early, just swoop in, pick your stuff and leave, I would suggest doing that.
That's a good tip.
That line is wild. All right. So Jacob already hinted into the complaint part, but it wasn't really about GalaxyCon. It was about Jet's Pizza. And but what are some complaints you had about the event? Byron, I already know where you already alluded to, so go ahead and say it.
The line management could have been better. Again, we got there at 9:30. I didn't get to integrate on Saturday until like 10:30, so I missed 30 minutes of his presentation, which I missed some important stuff that you told me he said, which was good to know. But it'd been better to hear straight from him. And Sunday, again, the line structure was just bad. Because they had only one door open and they have like 4 entrances into the big main artist part. So it took them like maybe 40 minutes just to open up all 4 doors. So I think they could have done that at the beginning to get people in there before the panel started. So I think that's one thing they can improve on, is just managing the lines on Saturday and Sunday.
Jacob, any complaints?
Complaint wise, boy, security there was trash. I'll say that, which was both good and bad for me. Because one, they do have a couple like Columbus cops there, which is fine, but then they have like a bunch of rent-a-cops, whatever. But you can't, they have signs up like saying like don't bring anything in to the con weapon wise, which of course I would never do, and I definitely didn't do. But I'm saying it would be very easily, because they had like no metal detectors or wands or anything like that. Which, yeah.
Oh man, Hannah.
So my only complaint that I can think of is the brochures that they printed out, and they printed tons of them. You found them everywhere. You found them at the registration line and then just scattered around the entire venue. But they were printed a few days before the event started, and certain things had changed last minute. Like, for instance, we sat in at Tara Strong's panel, I think at the hero stage, and we had anticipated that there was like the wrestler panel that was going on Saturday. I believe it was like Mick Foley and Kane and a bunch of other people. It was supposed to be held at that stage right after Tara Strong, and it had switched right at the last minute. We didn't realize we were at the wrong stage, so we're kind of scrambling to figure out, well, where's the sidekick stage, or wherever the other stages were, right? In fact, the reason I think we sat in at Ron Perlman, it was kind of an accident. I think that we were planning to sit in for somebody else, realized that it was Ron Perlman coming up, and then just decided, instead of trying to hustle all the way to the other side of the venue, like, this would probably be pretty cool. Like, let's just stay for it. It ended up being one of our favorite experiences. So the communication behind anything changing from when they printed out these brochures was kind of poor. But that was probably my biggest complaint.
I would also, I mean, I'm always a fan of more directional signage in a place is better because, like, if it's your first time going to the Greater Columbus Convention Center, it's a big place. Like, it is a really big place, and if there's not like signs pointing like where to go, like what you just said, Hannah, like where is the sidekick stage, like where is the main stage? It's like they once you get a knack for it, it's fine, but they could do with some more signage because they're like, where's the super stage? Like stuff like that. You just got to a point too where you're like, oh, you see someone in a cosplay walking in a direction, just follow them, and eventually you'll get to wherever you want to get to. But I think they should do better with the maps and signage, like in the building.
I agree with that because like one of the stages was on the second floor and he didn't know that until like the last minute. So definitely signage definitely would have helped.
Yeah, there were multiple second floors. Unfortunately, we made the mistake of going to like the wrong part of the second floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one sign they had for the second floor one was literally right next to the escalator at the exact opposite end of where everyone initially thought it was at. Like,
yeah, you wouldn't have seen it unless you were already there.
Yeah, and there's still like other stuff happening. Like there's still like even when you go to GalaxyCon, like that whole convention center, like there's a whole floor of like all the food places, Jet's Pizza, sorry, like Jet's Pizza and all that stuff, and like there's like card places like for trading cards and all of that, and even at GalaxyCon, like you go to a side, you randomly end up at like the board game competition because they're doing all of that stuff too. There's just so much going on. So I just want to reiterate, and then I'm just going to go around. So for first person coming to a GalaxyCon or a big con, and we're just going to go around until we don't have anything, like what is one thing, like what are things they need to have? Like for me, for example, if you're going to these things, you probably need to bring a phone charger. You probably should have one because you're going to be there all day and you're taking pictures and all that, your phone's going to die. So.
Yeah.
Byron, what about you? If you're telling someone, hey, you need this for when you go to GalaxyCon or a big con.
You alluded to this one earlier. Bring a bag for all these stuff you're gonna buy, because guaranteed. I brought a small backpack the first day. I was like, this is not gonna carry everything I'm gonna buy. So the second day, I brought a bigger backpack. But this year, I think I'll bring like one of those big GalaxyCon bags that they have to carry all my cards and art pieces. So definitely bring a big bag.
We gonna get it to the point where we saw him. You bring the wagon. You just, hey, you laugh at these people, but
they had a great idea. They had a good idea.
The wagon people.
Like, God. What about you, Hannah? What would you tell one of your friends if this is their first time coming to a major con? What would you tell them to bring or be prepared for?
Honestly, good shoes. I mean, as much as we walked, right? The last thing you want to be thinking about is like, I need to sit down because I'm getting blisters on my ankles or something. Like you were literally walking so much the whole time you're on your feet. And it's fantastic. But if you want to be truly focused on like what you're there for, bring good shoes, plan to get a ton of steps and something, comfortable. Like even my cosplay, before when I tried it before I left for Columbus, I wanted it to be comfortable because I anticipated walking a lot. Not as much as we actually walked, but I did anticipate having to walk around a lot and wanted to be comfortable. So that's probably the biggest thing.
That's a really good one. Comfortable shoes and being comfortable in your clothes, because it's a whole work shift. You're there from like 8-10 hours a day. So Jacob, what about you, man? What would you tell someone like, hey, this is what you need to do for your first major con?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would definitely say would, Byron and you said it, backpack or some sort of bag. Second thing, and I noticed this not with a ton of people, but the people that didn't have this, it was definitely noticeable. Wear deodorant.
Oh yeah, no, that's it. No, seriously.
Deodorant. Like, listen, you're going to be walking around, wear deodorant because you'll smell, and there's nothing worse than waiting in line and someone smelling.
No,
deodorant.
That's a very good one. So we got.
Hey, that's like
no. Hey, Matt. I mean, obviously, we're way past the people getting the weird rap about like Comic Cons and geekdom and all that stuff, except for the people who bark at people. That's a whole different topic for another day. But you're right, man. There's some people who come here and just don't have basic hygiene.
Like, I mean, maybe it's just a wrestling thing, but you'll see it at wrestling events too.
Yeah. Oh, every geekdom thing. So we got bring a backpack, have a phone charger, wear comfortable shoes, comfortable clothes, hygiene. I have some more. Be prepared to be annoyed, because you do gotta be prepared to be annoyed / have a free mind, because you're gonna sit in some of those panels and you're gonna run into some people who are gonna really piss you off, like who don't listen to the moderator when they're like just one question. They try and seek 50 questions. They try and go up there. You're gonna get annoyed, so you gotta be prepared for that.
Yeah, you want to bring patience with you,
Yes.
because there's so many different types of people at GalaxyCon, and like they're so welcoming, and that's such a fantastic environment to be in, because you feel not out of place, but at the same time, because it's such a welcoming environment, like people just try to get away with things that they normally probably wouldn't get away with. Yeah.
Any other ones to add? This is the ultimate guide to go into a con.
Thankfully, they do sell alcohol there.
That is true. That's true.
For those people that you lose your patience, yeah, or just keep a 12 pack of Busch Light in your hotel room.
I would say come prepared to what you're going to see, because personally for me, there's a lot of panels I got to miss out on because they were concurrent with ones I wanted to see. So there's like, I think it was like a 5 o'clock hour. There was like 3 different things I want to see. You can only choose one. So I'm prepared to what you're going to see, when you're going to see it, schedule free time. So like, when these 2 panels, I'm going to go look around at art. So just come prepared with a schedule, because I didn't do that my first year, and glad I did in my second year.
Even this year, like it it punishes you for having a whole bunch of interest.
It does. And I didn't realize how many interests I had until I started looking at the schedule. Like, oh, I want to go see this, want to go see this. I was like, oh, nope, can't do that because it's the same. That's something else I want to see.
Yeah, you got to make sacrifices. Like,
that's so true. We had a Sharpie, and in one of the programs that we had, we went through page by page and circled the things that were like unmissable for both of us. And then if something was conflicting with another, we had to decide what's the best one to see. But we did the exact same thing. I'm a big planner and I have a lot of interest, so I knew that this would be a little tricky to try and get as much bang for my buck as I could, right?
I think you have to plan, like when you're coming to these major things, because there's just so much. And if you have issues with anxiety and being overwhelmed, as soon as you walk in, you're going to get overwhelmed. Like if you don't like being in big crowds, these things ain't for you. Like it's just, it gets really crazy with the crowds. And I want to go back to your patience thing, because you also got to realize it's kind of weird. Like when you're talking amongst your friends and stuff, you somehow like think like you're the only people who like this stuff. But you guys went to see Sabbath and you guys waited in the line for what, 3 hours?
3 hours on Friday. That's the craziest part. The line didn't look like it was a 3-hour long line. But the amount of time that he spent with each person, and oh my God, the venue was hard. I thought it was busy Friday. I had no idea what I was going to walk into when we came down from the hotel Saturday morning. But I'm so glad we decided to do that first on Friday when we got there, because I don't think we would have spent easily half a day waiting for Sabbath if we would have done this on Saturday or Sunday. So yeah, 100%. It was, I did not expect that.
Then you're looking around, you're just like, wow, all these people are in line for the same reason I am. It's like, it's crazy. Like, shoot, I mean, normally I don't even like waiting like 5 to 10 minutes in a drive-through, let alone waiting in the line for 3 hours to get a conversation with someone and to hopefully get them to sign stuff and like professional stuff. So yeah, you really need some patience on when you're coming to these these things. Obviously, normal stuff. You got to be respectful because, now seeing like when you see them at these cons, you're just like, oh yeah, they're like normal people that are just doing their job. Let's not do anything crazy.
Well, and it's good sometimes that you have the wait. Like for me, the 3-hour wait was a little annoying, but probably necessary because when I rounded the corner and saw him, I think I definitely squealed because Jake was like, you need to calm down.
Yeah.
But I probably would have said something really stupid had I met him within the 5 minutes of turning the corner and seeing that he was there. So having 3 hours to be patient and wait, like simmered me down to a normal, well, what's normal? Like a human level of excitement, right? Like I was able to have a normal conversation with him and not think that I was being a weirdo.
No, I agree. I mean, anytime you get close to one of your idols and stuff like that, it's just like, and you also run the fear like in the back of your head, like, oh, is this never meet your heroes? Is this person about to be a dick? Like you run into that like fear, and then I mean, I had like when I had that question to Trish and Lita, when I met like Stephen Amell and Austin St. John, the original Red Ranger, they were all perfectly nice and like stuff like that. So the people who come here are typically nice. Any other advice for people? We got comfortable, we got book bags, patience, deodorant. Any other?
I would say, because I've seen a lot of this too. But I am not a parent, so whatever. But this is what I would say: if you bring your kids, be prepared to see a lot of ass.
That's actually a really good one. That's actually a good point to another thing, Jacob. Good one.
If you're going to have like kids there, like be prepared to be, asked like, hey, what's this? Hey, what's that? And yeah, just be prepared because that's just how cons are.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I couldn't imagine bringing because I see like a lot of like real little kids there, and I'm just like, I could never.
No, that's a really good one. Like if you're a parent knowing which is up, but then on the flip side, because Hannah was the one who cosplayed and all that stuff, be respectful to the cosplayers. Don't go just because, like Jacob said, just because they're showing a lot of ass doesn't mean you can just get your phone and prop it right behind them and take a picture. More than like if you ask respectfully to take a picture with a cosplayer who put a lot of work and effort into it, they'll take a picture with you. So they had that sign way more than they had directional signs at GalaxyCon. Which just saying, don't know if that's the right sign. I get it.
That sign was they had no weapons allowed in here.
Yeah, no weapon.
Cosplay does not equal consent, and I'm like, that's great. Right. I'm aware of that, but where is the superhero stage?
Yeah, but then because you hear these stories of like people are like, hey, some of these people you're cosplaying as show a lot of skin, and you're putting a lot, and you're like, there's people who work their whole year towards that day, so it's like, hey, just be respectful and all that, and then like the Jacobs thing, if you're bringing a little person in, they're gonna be like, why is this girl's boobs out, or why is that guy walking around with no shirt? Like those are good, perfect segue into respect and consent. Jacob, look at you.
Yeah, Jacob.
I'm the ideal person for that.
Any other stuff? Oh, and also, I mean, service is kind of bad depending on where you're at in that building. So if you're coming with a group, make sure you know where your friends are at if you separate.
Yes.
Or just look around for 3 hours until you find each other. And don't look for the Columbus Eat sign because there's like 20 of them.
Yeah, that's not a good place.
I apologize. I did not know there was 20 of them until after we met up. You're saying it took me forever to find this Columbus Eats you're at. I was like, I'm sorry.
That's not good.
We had 2 sets of friends do the same thing using the same signage. We're like, nope, that's not going to work.
That is not a yeah, because there's so many. You end up at one Columbus Eats sign, the other person's a hole across the building way. So
it happened to me and Jacob and Hannah. I was like, this one has this. They're like, all right, where you at? I'm like, I'm here. I don't see you guys.
Gotta be more specific. I'm at the Cheetos Columbus Eat sign. Okay, we're on our way.
I would also consider, like going back to Hannah's planning thing, pick like a day or time that you're going to do a lot of your merchant buying, because it's hard to keep trying to like, oh, I'll go back and buy it the next day. And sometimes you get lucky and it's still there. There was one thing I really wanted to buy, and the vendor told me it was stolen last night by one of the cleanup crew. And I was actually kind of pissed because I was like, I should have just bought it the day before. But sometimes you got to know, man, like maybe that first Friday or like sometime Sunday, buy all the stuff you want. Like your main, I want this, and then the stuff that you want to wait next time you come in the next day and get it, because other people want the same things you want.
Yeah. And a good thing to note too, Sunday, if you end up staying 3 days, or even if you're just doing a 2-day Saturday, Sunday, we noticed on Sunday that several of the vendors were doing like discounted items because it was the last day of the con. So if there's something that you like didn't have to have, but you really liked, and you're still there on Sunday, it's worth walking past it again to see if it's discounted at all. We got a few things on Sunday that were less expensive than they would have been had I bought them Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, those vendors are working, man.
And check out the website. Make sure, like, before you go, like, look at the website. They'll have the times and stuff. And yes, it will change. There will be stuff that definitely changes, but like, definitely, you know, do your scouting beforehand.
Agree. Byron, anything else?
Just with merch, just be prepared to spend more than you brought, because it happens. You'll see a lot of good stuff. Like I said, every vendor has something different that's unique. They're like, "Ooh, I want this to add to my collection." And if you have to have it, buy it right then and there, because it may be gone. Like there was something I wanted. There's like a Kingdom Hearts like little metal bookmark that the guy didn't have any stock anymore. I was like, man, if I had saw this one yesterday, I could have bought it. But just buy it when you first see it, because it may not be there later.
That's true. Anything else?
I can't think of anything.
I actually thought of one more complaint, and it's really not GalaxyCon. It's the convention center. Look, this is to the greedy convention center employee higher ups. You know, thousands upon thousands of people are coming to your event who have saved up potentially all year. Pass, vendors, meet and greets. It's probably $1,000 you're spending at this thing minimum. And you have the gall to raise the event parking $10 extra. That is bullshit. Like, that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You should not be charging families $25 to park
per day.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Technically, I think we paid more, but we also were at the hotel and did.
We were at the hotel connected to the convention center, so we didn't have to worry about parking per se. I mean, we still had to pay for parking, but we didn't have to find a parking spot every day.
Yeah, it was $25, and their average thing for things are like $12 to $15. It was $25 a day to park.
They knew people would pay it.
It's convenient of mine because, like, if you're buying all of that, because I drove both times because I was like, I'm gonna buy stuff, and you're not gonna be able to put all the stuff in a little Uber. Like, you feel weird bringing all that stuff in an Uber, so you want to just put it. You want to just put it in your trunk when you have some downtime, go back to the event, and carry on. So it's like, but still, that's a lot.
Columbus does have free parking on Sundays on the streets, but because I went, because I knew we were going to be leaving later than the time allotted for us to leave our car parked without paying for an extra day. So I just took the truck. I just parked. I had to park like 6 blocks away where I could find something on the street, but I still did have free parking on the street. Oh, but
if you buy
they don't have to raise their price. It's a little much, but that's Columbus. That is big city. I mean, like at the one con we did go to, which is the way smaller one out in like BFE, parking was free.
Wow. See, if you're parking blocks away and you know you're going to buy a lot of stuff, that wagon's looking more and more appealing.
Yeah.
It's like the minivan of the cons. It's like, I don't want to do it's convenient. There's so much space.
I feel like I need to cosplay as somebody who carries a wagon like Cabbage Man from Airbender.
It's just wild because like you see more and more of them and you're just like, well, I'm buying just as much stuff as they are and I have to carry this. Like it's just you're going into like the main stage, listening to someone talking, you're coming there with your book bag on, and you have all this stuff in both your hands. Then you just see like that couple just wagging. Everything's fine. I'm just like,
I mean, I did see they do have like, because they had like a coat check area, and I know you can like drop stuff off there, but dude, that can get really expensive really quick.
And I just think this event's going to get bigger and bigger. I think also they need to have different registration like locations, like to have 20, maybe 30,000 people. Maybe even more showing up and lining up in the same. There's only one registration. You put one more, two more, and it makes it a better experience for everybody.
Yeah, and they definitely have the room for it. But even if you did two, and you put one on each end of the convention center.
Yeah,
keep the one where
they should do.
One where like the creepy face thing was at by the superhero stage.
They could have executed that so much better.
But anything else? No. Next GalaxyCon, they already have the date. It's looking like it's always going to December 6th through the 8th, 2024. A whole to the end of the year. Are you guys planning or thinking about attending in December?
Yes.
We already bought tickets at the last.
Hey, they do. The earlier you buy the tickets, though, you get this. That's another tip. The earlier you buy the ticket, you get like 10, 15, 20% discounts.
Yeah. We purchased them the last day of the previous con, the Sunday that we were there, because it was 25% off.
Yeah,
and
can't beat that.
No, we got another 3-day pass, and we'll be there this December.
Now, did you get the fast pass? Because I know we talked about this off air. No fast pass?
You know, it's funny because day one, I'm thinking, wow, I waited 3 hours to see Sabbath. I should have bought the fast pass. The thing with this is probably something good for people who've not been to a con like this to know. If you're waiting in line to see somebody and you don't have the VIP that allows you to go to the front, the way this works is the peasant line, right? Yep. Where we stood. Everything stops. The peasant line does not move if there are people in the VIP line. So if you get an influx of VIPs, that, prevents you from moving for like half an hour. However, I will say, if you're there for 3 days, see Friday, or Saturday morning when we saw you and we discussed this, I'm thinking like, I have to get the VIP. It totally has to happen next year. I won't make this mistake again. But if you talk to me by Sunday, because we were there all 3 days, we managed our time. We budgeted the time and who we wanted to see, meet in person versus seeing their panel. I think that we had plenty of time to do that. And it wouldn't have been worth the extra cost incurred to get VIP just for that. That's my opinion. I mean, we did spend a lot of money, and I don't know that spending more would have enhanced our experience because we were there for 3 days. We saw and met who we wanted to see and meet. But yeah, that's the thing with the VIP. If you don't plan to spend the extra money, be prepared, for those bigger people you want to see to wait a bit longer, because guess what? The wagon guy, he's VIP, and he's got 50 things for them to sign and an endless supply of cash. He's just forking it out hand over foot, So
Hannah, that's a really good point, because it is crazy. Like when you're sitting in the regular line, and the first thing they always say, like just for the photo booth thing, they're like, they call you up. There's time check-ins. If you're a VIP or you have like the accessibility, disability, whatever one, you go up front, and then you see like hundreds of people going up front. You're just like, oh shit, I'm gonna be here for a while. And like you said, Hannah, you don't go until they're all done.
Yes, they don't. It's not like they stagger, right? They don't take a few VIP, maybe 3 of them, 1 of you. No, the VIP goes first. But I will say, it was interesting throughout the 3-day weekend. Like the Hardys. The reason we saw the Hardys was because we were kind of walking around and realized that they were arriving to their booth to start. Like they don't tell you when they're going to start signing or when they come back from break. You have to be paying attention. So a few people we met were simply because there was no line because they weren't there. We saw them kind of at the time that they arrived. We got right in line and we didn't have to wait. So I mean that worked out for us too. But yeah, they if you don't pay for VIP, they will make sure you don't feel like a VIP when it comes to waiting in those lines.
It's true. Also, with like just another tip, if you plan to get in that line at the events to talk to people, especially like at the panels and all that, have like 2 or 3 questions already ready in your brain. Because the moderator, and I think we all saw the particular one, he is very strict about one question. You can't ask them about projects that they're in right now because of NDAs, all yada yada. And there are some smart people there. They might take your question. So you got to have a couple in the back, because if you're up there like just fumbling your question, you're going to get embarrassed and then you're just going to hate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So just saying on that, just have your stuff ready, because people are smart. And then the Hannah's thing, have patience, because you're going to have people up there and you think it's the dumbest question that they wasted it on, and then they go right before you, and then they're like, oh, we got to stop questions, because they're only in there for an hour, like at those main panels. And like Hannah said, you just got to get lucky. Walking around, you might catch them at their booth and try and get the question in there. But I think we just gave everyone the perfect guide for GalaxyCon or any major con. So
yeah,
I think we're good. With that being said, can't wait for GalaxyCon December 6th through the 8th, 2024. There is actually one thing I would have done differently that I thought about when it was over, since there was the whole we did not take a picture together as like didn't. That would be one thing I would do differently. Another thing,
the group picture,
but
we'll do that this year.
And we need t-shirts.
Well, did you do the survey?
No, I did. I don't know if Jacob did.
The whole end of year survey that got sent out to everyone. See about who, if you would have listened to the end of year pod, about who would you want to work with, who you didn't work with this year, and if you had one choice of apparel, what would it be? Just saying. It was.
I'll take a t-shirt. I'll go for t-shirt. Well, you have my answer.
That doesn't help me when I look on the thing, and you're one of the few people who are left to do it.
You can forward it to me, and I'll make sure he gets it done.
The survey literally says time it takes to finish under a minute.
I don't disagree with that. If you send it to me, I will make sure that, and I don't know if I'm allowed to participate, I will, because Jacob, it takes less than a minute to do. But if not, I'll make sure that he fills it out.
Perfect.
Thanks.
With that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. Thank you, Hannah, for coming on, talking about the cons. Can't wait to talk about this again next year. Jacob and Byron, you'll literally hear from them maybe as soon as next week, because they got to start talking about the Royal Rumble coming up and all of the wrestling, and have the first wrestling podcast of 2024. So they'll be back. With that being said, L7C podcast. Anyone going to GalaxyCon, practice your hygiene and don't eat the Free Jets pizza. That being said, signing out. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.